When I set out to capture an image, there is usually a degree of planning and preparation. It's not just dumb luck, although sometimes it is. I usually try to capture some sort of local weather event, or it might be some celestial event like a sunrise or a sunset, maybe a moonrise. And the second part is I try to think of an interesting composition. So maybe a moonset over some fog on a nice hillside, or some interesting trees, or a cool building. Something like that that will take your image to a better place instead of just being a snapshot. Anyway, this is the process that I use to achieve that. So the first thing I do is get online and consult the almighty Google. This time it's the Perseid meteor showers that we are going to take photos of. That's our target. Of course, the timing is absolutely critical. We've already looked it up, and it's going to happen the night of the 11th and 12th is going to be the peak. So the other part of it now is to find an interesting location to shoot that from, so we can have a nice, interesting composition. As I mentioned before, we look for some kind of a cool structure. In this case, it's going to be a barn, and this is us right here. So this thing should be facing, if we set up down in this area here, we'll be looking northeast, which they advise to be the perfect direction. So the next step is going to be to head out there, take a look, and confirm that everything looks as it should. So this is the most critical tool in my camera bag. This is a Nikon D800. It is a DSLR, which means digital single lens reflex camera. This camera basically is a computer that you can attach lenses to. It has a 36 megapixel sensor, which allows one to capture quite a bit of data and allows you to print bigger images at a higher quality and gives you a little more leeway when editing the photos. So the next part is getting our equipment ready and in order. So we've cleaned our lenses, got our batteries charged up, made sure the camera and everything is in proper order. And we are going to pack a variety of lenses in case we need something different. Although I think tonight we're mostly going to be relying on this one, which for me is a wider lens. This is a 14 to 24. That will allow us to capture a much larger section of the sky. And then we're also going to carry a couple of flashlights. So in case we want to do some light painting, we might want to light up the inside of the barn, and also so we can see where we're walking on the way out there. So it looks like everything's good. We've got some cleaning supplies if we need. Spare batteries we're bringing with us, as well as other odds and ends.
Okay, so right now we're gonna do a test shot to see. I think we're in a good spot.
There you go, check it out. So that's going to be the composition. So we should have plenty of stars and shooting stars, hopefully. Later on, that'll be behind it. So now we have our composition set up. We've got our spot. We're facing the right direction for the stars. Now we just have to wait for nighttime and the stars. So here's the exciting part about photography, is waiting for the event to happen. We've got a ways to go, but there have already been a couple shooting stars, and hopefully We caught a couple. We'll see once it's all over. But basically now I'm going to leave the camera here set up for the next 4 hours. After I've taken the photos, the next thing is to put them into the computer and edit them. And when we say editing photos, that's the digital equivalent of a darkroom. The so-called digital darkroom that I use to edit the photos is Lightroom. That's the name of one of the programs. Another one is Photoshop. They're both very handy, very powerful tools. And here we go. This is an image. This is an example of one of the photographs. And this is what's called a RAW file or a RAW image. This is exactly what was collected by the camera's sensor, sort of a blank slate. You might consider it as an undeveloped negative. So this allows us to make overall changes in exposure. We can lighten it, we can make it really dark, whatever we prefer. The computer also allows us to make very specific adjustments. We can do specific selections, and in this case we can make it really bright if we want an area that we feel needs to be brighter or darker. And last night, one of the things we did, the main purpose obviously, was to capture the shooting stars as they occurred. So what I did is set the camera up in one spot and shot about 880 photographs of what you see here, this composition. And using the computer, we're able to stack those images and convey what occurred over many hours in one image. Here's one example. This includes about a dozen shooting stars. You can see them scattered up here. And this image also shows the inside of the barn illuminated with a flashlight. And that's one example. And that was about 30 images, I believe, for that one. Now here's an example. This is another one we did last night. This includes 840 separate photographs that we layered in Photoshop to achieve the sort of spinning look that you see here. And those are actually the movement, that's the movement of the stars. In the center would be the North Star, Polaris. And then in this case, the light of the stars sort of drowns out the shooting stars. They do, at this point, look like just little scratches on a record. But it's kind of a neat look. It's something different. You don't see that all the time. And obviously, if you stood there for 5.5 hours, you wouldn't, this isn't what you would see. But it's one example of what we're able to do. So you can see that the camera is one part of it, and the computer / the digital darkroom is the other. And these are the tools that I use to create the photographs.